Following Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's directives, Egypt continues airdropping aid over Gaza and sending fuel convoys as tensions escalate in Jerusalem after Itamar Ben-Gvir stormed the Al-Aqsa mosque. Welcome to our special coverage on Q News, where we tackle the latest developments with me, Hala Al-Hamalawi.
والله العظيم ولا حبة رز، والله العظيم والله حبة عدس. ما فيش أكل، ما فيش شرب، عندي بنت 2.5 صارت تشتغل.
Following President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's directives, Egypt has continued airdropping humanitarian aid over Gaza, aiming to support Palestinians amid dire conditions. Egyptian military spokesman stated that over the past 3 days, 9 Egyptian military aircrafts delivered dozens of tons of food supplies to areas inaccessible by land. These airdrops coincide with Egypt's ongoing efforts to send aid trucks by road, reinforcing its commitment to providing comprehensive support to Gaza's residents. Aid trucks have departed from Egypt towards Gaza, including 2 fuel trucks carrying 107 tons of diesel. This move resumes fuel delivery essential for powering critical facilities in the Gaza Strip. The fuel trucks will help restart hospitals and bakeries, supporting the restoration of vital services in the region. The third group of Egypt's 6th Red Crescent aid convoy has departed for Gaza, marking the largest number of trucks sent since aid deliveries began. This significant convoy carries a wide range of humanitarian supplies, including several tons of essential goods, to support those in need in the Gaza Strip. The National Alliance has launched its 11th humanitarian convoy to support Gaza, consisting of 200 relief trucks. The convoy, organized in coordination with 13 institutions from the National Alliance, carries 400 tons of essential food supplies tailored to the urgent needs on the ground in Gaza. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati has affirmed that Egypt remains the steadfast supporter of the Palestinians and will persist in backing the Palestinian cause until an independent state is established. Speaking at the 6th edition of the Egyptians Abroad Conference, Minister Abdelati condemned attempts to malign Egypt's supportive role, stating that Israel exploits these baseless campaigns to mask its own crimes. Egypt's foreign minister emphasized that the hostile attacks against Egypt aim to divert attention from Israel's sole responsibility for the Gaza tragedy. To shed more light on the issue, we're joined from Cairo by Mr. Mohammed Izzeddin, Al-Ahram managing editor. Welcome to Q News, Mr. Izzeddin. How do Egypt's sustained airdrops and fuel deliveries to Gaza reflect its strategic positioning as a regional humanitarian actor amid the crisis?
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, Egyptian stance never changes since the eruptions of the crisis in October 7, 2023. Throughout the 10th year, Egypt, the sole supporter of the Palestinian cause. Any crisis, the Gaza Strip or the Palestinian people are suffering too. We found Egypt on the political arena, and the humanitarian level is playing a great role. In this time, with the escalation of starvation war launched by the occupation forces against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, highlights largely the Egyptian role. Never stopped Egypt's role, along with the great diplomatic role of the Egyptian state in order to find a solution to the catastrophe of killing Palestinians on daily basis, and to pursue peaceful solution based on a two-state solution. Humanitarian aid is the main matter the whole world is very much is concerned about. After witnessing the whole world meaning through the TV screens that the occupation forces preventing the delivery of the humanitarian aids and fuel and killing the people of Palestine at the GHF affiliated distribution centers. And the flow we've seen through the screens of TVs in the world media on the Egyptian role cannot be denied. Despite the malicious campaign that the Egyptian state is facing in a bid to try to tarnish the Egypt's role to prevent the displacement of the Palestinian people, along with the humanitarian support. We've seen today a great changement upon delivering great quantities of fuels in addition to the humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip that took place for the first time throughout months. Hospitals in the Gaza Strip is suffering due to the shortages of the fuel. And the shortages of clean water reached 90%. So what we've seen now is a continuation of the Egyptian role towards saving the Palestinian people in Gaza Strip, emphasizing that Egypt is very much concerned of supporting the Palestinian people and pursuing towards the permanent ceasefire and to begin the process of reconstructing Gaza. So Egypt's role is to continue with the collaboration with the international institution can contribute either on land or airdropping as the armed forces made today and 2 days before.
To what extent has the scale and frequency of Egyptian aid convoys such as the 6th Red Crescent convoy and the National Alliance shipments actually mitigate the humanitarian collapse in Gaza?
Absolutely. The Egyptian state, either the official institutions or the National Alliance and civil societies playing a great role. And a great number of non-governmental societies along with some entities and ministries and the effort of the Egyptian people and their donations playing a great role against or on the Palestinian people. The main factor that may assist with the insufficiency of the humanitarian aid and the Israeli forces refrain in reaching the Palestinian people, in addition to the airdrops in areas that are unreachable. International institution stated that delivering aids specifically through the Egyptian crossings very close, which is such as Rafah as a direct outlet, but the Israeli occupation forces never allowed the direct entry by the occupied Palestinian territories. So the alternative is Karma Abu Salam crossing that vehicles might take hours entering the food stop, but the best solution in light of the failure of the GHF supervised by the US intelligence officers that failed at larger scale, so international community consider such centers such as these traps. Tens of people are killed seeking the food, and Egypt launching such a role and delivering the aid in the shape we've seen through the TV's support and provide great humanitarian services to the Palestinian people, along with the diplomatic efforts that aims to the cessation of fire and to start a new phase of reconstruction and revive the two-state solution, along with the recognition of the Palestinian statehood on the negotiation table.
Mm-hmm. So in what ways does Egypt's leadership in humanitarian relief reinforce its historical role in Palestinian affairs and Arab solidarity?
Certainly, Egypt's role we witnessed through the TVs and on the ground, but the viral talks through the social media orchestrated by some to create a state of skepticism of the Egyptian role that failed at large scale. Egypt on the ground delivering humanitarian and food aids of more than 80% that reached the Gaza Strip by Egypt, by the Egyptian people and the Egyptian entities. So the Egyptian role is clear and crystal before the whole world, despite the attempt or some sort of an international conspiracy against Egypt's role. Egypt's role is very effective. What Egypt plays is the great support for the people of Gaza Strip, in addition to the great diplomatic role, and Egypt playing the mediation despite of the uncertainty of some of Hamas leaders, but Egypt never given up the Egyptian people, the people of Gaza, and will refrain the displacement of the Palestinian people to anywhere that would expose a threat and a damage to the Egyptians in the region.
So how do Egyptian public and civil society organizations such as the Red Crescent and the National Alliance contribute to the state's humanitarian diplomacy in Gaza?
Certainly. The non-profitable societies, in addition to the humanitarian Egyptian medical institutions such as the Egyptian Red Crescent, play a great role in gaining the momentum. There are means of donation to our brothers in Gaza Strip, in the occupied Palestine, on a permanent way. And a great effort by the Egyptian individuals exerting all their efforts to elevate the Egyptian suffering. Officially and non-officially, there is a great role of the Egyptian institutions through the National Alliance, and the most prominent of the humanitarian relief agency collaborated with the international entities such as the Red Cross and UNRWA and other relief agencies to support the Palestinian people. The unofficial role of Egypt, of the civil societies and institution plays in a great role after the whole world has discovered that there is a bit of tarnishing the Egyptian role. After the failure of the Israeli occupation forces whitening their face, along with the no reasons for prolonging the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian territories.
From Cairo, that was Mr. Mohammed Izzeddin, Al-Ahram managing editor. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News. And now we move on to the latest developments in the West Bank. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, accompanied by followers, has stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque after leading a provocative settler march in Jerusalem's Old City. Marking the so-called Temple Destruction Anniversary, Ben-Gvir declared intentions to build the temple and impose sovereignty, even threatening Gaza. This day is deemed one of the most dangerous for Al-Aqsa, with extremist groups planning the largest incursions, exploiting full government backing amid unprecedented incitement. His actions challenge religious and legal boundaries, escalating tensions sharply. Later, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz also stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque under heavy guard from the Israeli occupation forces. Meanwhile, more than 3,000 Israeli settlers have stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque in what the Islamic Waqf Department described as an unprecedented provocation. The mass incursion, led by far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and several Knesset members, was carried out under heavy police protection. According to the Waqf, settlers performed Talmudic rituals, waved Israeli flags, and carried Torah scrolls near one of the mosque's gates, while Israeli forces restricted Palestinian access to the Old City. The Palestinian presidency has strongly condemned Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir's storming of Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, with spokesperson Nabil Aburdina calling it a move that crossed all the red lines. He urged immediate international intervention, specifically from the U.S., to halt what he described as escalating Israeli provocations, settler violence, and the ongoing war on Gaza, while demanding the swift entry of humanitarian aid. For more analysis, we're joined now by Mr. Ayman Al-Raqb, political science professor from Cairo. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayman, for joining us. And let me start by asking you, how is the growing influence of far-right Israeli politicians, such as Ben-Gvir, shaping military policies and settler activities in the West Bank?
After greeting City, what we followed today of a violation of Ben-Gvir on the Islamic holy sites by storming in the Al-Aqsa compound, that would constitute a state of igniting the whole region. And it seems that those parties of the far right never wish of they're not very much concerned about the stability in the region, and a set of the far-right supporters to fuel the region. A great quantities of religious people of the occupation forces do not support what is made by Ben-Gvir, that even it would pose a threat for themselves. So they are against the behavior of Ben-Gvir. This is the only thing that would fuel the region.
Sir, what are the strategic motivations behind the growing number of Israeli settlement expansions in the West Bank, and how do they align with long-term territorial objectives?
Firstly, Ben-Gvir personally, that he is losing his popularity within Israel. He wishes to come again to the scenes by violation of the Christian and the Islamic holy sites, by thinking as such to gain more of hardliner supporters to increase his popularity. Another scheme on the table of Netanyahu's government that never wished to lose the far-right parties. This is what is planned by the occupation forces, as it took place in the Ibrahimi compound, that in a great or specific areas for the Jews and other spots for the Palestinian, or rather the Muslim people. So, and we'll divide a day, some hours for the Muslim prayers and other hours for the Jews, and that never took place. This is the status quo that through the agreement along with the Ottoman Emperor, and to have areas for specific divine worshipping without any aggression. But what we've seen today by Ben-Gvir and a set of the extremists, that in a bid of ending such an agreement, which was called before the status quo rearrangement.
To what extent has the international community's response to West Bank developments influenced Israeli policies on the ground?
Today, after 660 days war in Gaza, the whole world knows that the matter never is related to a response of October 7th, 2023. The matter is very much concerned about killing people and killing thousands of people. Nothing but to receive a denunciation by the international community by sending some humanitarian aid, and we're talking about an international crippling to stop the hardliners of the Israeli cooperation when the EU is trying to threaten the occupation forces following scenes of starvation and famine by annexation of the Palestinian territories. And then the European Union would say that we review the trade partnership agreement with Israel, and they are addressing it to increase the size of the trade ties with Israel. Despite all of that, and I think up till now the international community, by its unofficial and official component, is very much crippled to put an end to the state of occupation and the far-right parties that would make him to continue what they are doing against the Palestinian people.
So how have repeated displacements and the destruction of infrastructure actually impacted Gaza's civilian resilience and ability to recover?
Certainly, when the images of the airdrops on Gaza in a few days, we've seen the size of devastation that the Gaza Strip is suffering. And we've seen this in the hospital. that would highlight that the occupation wishes to destroy what is left in Gaza by killing people, animals, devastate or destroying the trees and leaving nothing to be applicable for life. With respect to recovery, Egypt had laid down a plan for such a thing, but this would require some time. The most dangerously, the human being to rebuild them again is very much difficult. After the salvation, so there should be will be unqualified for such a rebuild or a recovery. We've seen people were killed seeking food, and that would have a great much of time to be held. And then we'll talk about the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and the matter is also related to the West Bank that is already exposed to slightly destruction. The whole world isn't very much concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Well, from Cairo, that was Mr. Ayman Al-Raqb, political science professor. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Q News. And now we move on to the latest developments in Gaza. U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff has told families of detainees held by Hamas that Washington is working with the Israeli government on a plan that would effectively end the war in Gaza. Witkoff said that the plan developed with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu includes the reconstruction of Gaza and could bring the conflict to a close. He also claimed that Hamas was prepared to disarm, though the group has repeatedly rejected laying down its weapons. Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid has urged an immediate end to the war in Gaza, saying that the government has lost public support and no longer has the legitimacy to continue the conflict. Lapid wrote on X that the state of Israel cannot wage a war if the majority of the public does not stand behind it, does not believe in its objectives, and does not trust the leadership, as per his description, adding that it is time to end the war and bring back the detainees. His comments come as pressure mounts on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the war and the failure to secure the release of detainees in Gaza. The Gaza Health Ministry has called for the safe passage of a UNICEF convoy carrying urgently needed medicines and medical equipment for hospitals across the enclave. The trucks do not include food supplies, and the ministry said that these items are of great importance to continue providing medical care and save lives, urging citizens and authorities to protect the convoy and ensure it reaches hospitals without interference. Medical sources have reported that 6 people, including children, have died in the last 24 hours due to famine and malnutrition in the Gaza Strip, raising the death toll from starvation to 175, including 93 children. Hospitals across the Gaza Strip continue to report rising fatalities as the humanitarian crisis deepens under Israel's ongoing blockade, which has cut off food and medical supplies since March 2nd, 2025. That comes as UNRWA has warned that malnutrition among children under 5 has doubled between March and June, while the World Health Organization says that nearly 1 in 5 children in Gaza City is now suffering from severe acute malnutrition. And this brings us to the end of our special coverage for today. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. I'm Helen Hamilawi. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.